This is an activity I came up with that I'm kind of proud of. I don't think I have all the bugs worked out of it yet. I've only used the activity once, but I'm going to talk you through it even though you probably can't see the words very well. I call this my web of intervention. When we're talking about the cascade of intervention or the domino effect, I did this activity to kind of reinforce that idea that it's just kind of a big mess once we start with induction, and how it can really spider out from there. So the top one here, it just says induction, in particular induction with Pitocin. So what in other interventions do you have when you have an induction? Okay, well, if we're getting Pitocin, well, then we need IV fluids. We need to be continuously monitored. We're going to be checking our blood pressure more frequently. There's absolutely an increased use of epidurals when we have Pitocin, and increase of vacuum and forceps, and maybe even increase of C-section. I basically get the student to kind of figure out for themselves what are the interventions. And then I have another student, they're gonna have a different color. And then we're gonna say, okay, so one of the risks of an induction would be an epidural. So if we get an epidural, what are the things that we have to have when we have an epidural? Well, if we have an epidural, we definitely are going to have a catheter to empty our bladder. We're immobile. There's immobility at that point, not able to move around. You need to be continuously monitored. You need to have IV fluids. You need your blood pressure checked more frequently. There's an increased chance of vacuum forceps, C-section. The pulse oximeter has to be on. Increased chance of episiotomy. And then, if the epidural slows down labor and you don't have Pitocin, then you'd need an increase in Pitocin as well. Then again, I would have somebody else come down here and we'd say one of the other risks of the induction was a C-section. So let's work on the C-section here. If we're going to have a C-section, what other interventions are we going to have? Well, we're definitely going to have our blood pressure going all the time. You're going to need some antibiotics, continuous monitoring, IV fluids. Did you know that even with a cesarean section, there might be vacuum or forceps? I've seen that several times now where they need to help get the baby out and they use vacuum and forceps. Some sort of epidural or spinal block that kind of works like that. Pulse oximeter, immobility. So then, this is the cool part. This is where the web comes in. I hope it shows up on camera well. So then I talk about the fact that, all right, you think you're just being induced, but by being induced, we have actually taken on all the risks of the epidural as well, and all the risk of the cesarean section. And if I wanted, I could have done a fourth one as well, and we could have talked about catheters and stuff like that. But I'm hoping you can see now by overlaying, let's see if I can bring this over. By overlaying all three, now it's kind of created a web. Anyways, it was a fun activity for me to create. I'm glad it kind of worked in class. I think I can still work out a few more details about how I present it, but this one makes me happy. I hope it made you happy.